20 people shot, several at point-blank range. Many of the survivors are being treated behind me here at the University Medical Center. And now authorities want to know what caused the alleged gunman, Jared Lee Loughner, to snap.
Before we start, we want to send our thoughts and prayers to all the families affected by this tragedy. Let's learn a bit about Tucson, Arizona. It's a beautiful city in the southwestern United States, close to the Mexico border. Despite its desert location, Tucson is known for its great weather and stunning mountains. The culture is influenced by the Mexican population, making it unique with delicious Mexican food and Latino music. Although it has grown in recent years, it still has a small-town feel, and most people describe it as a safe place. On January 8, 2011, at 10 a.m., Gabrielle Giffords, a recently re-elected senator, was ready to start a Congress session called Congress on Your Corner. This program allowed politicians like her to meet supporters, discussing various issues in person. Gabby, as she was known, preferred informal meetings, believing in accessibility and staying connected to the community's needs. The people of Tucson looked forward to meaningful discussions with their senator. On a sunny Saturday morning, a crowd gathered, unaware of the danger among them. In a fraction of a second, their lives would be torn apart. At precisely 10:10 a.m., the peaceful town of Tucson was shattered by 22-year-old Jared Lee Loughner. In a brutal 17-second killing spree, he took 6 lives and wounded 13 others, with Congresswoman Giffords as his main target. What drove Loughner to commit such terrible actions? Were his motives justified, or did he suffer from a mental illness? These questions lingered in the aftermath of a tragedy that changed lives in an instant. Let's dive into who Jared Lee Loughner really is. Born on September 10, 1988, he grew up as the only child in a working-class part of the city. His mother was a respected parks and recreation manager in Prima County, while his father worked in car restoration. In his early years, Loughner had a close circle of friends. Layla Chavis, a former friend, shared that they bonded over music when they were about 12 or 13. They even started a band, with Jared playing bass. Another friend, Tyler Zwern, remembered their teenage years filled with mischief, typical of rebellious teens. However, as Loughner entered his late teens, things took a dark turn. A turning point came when he had a crush on a high school classmate. After a brief romance that ended abruptly, Jared felt betrayed, leading to isolation. He withdrew from school and stopped talking to friends, eventually dropping out in 2006. His retreat into a private world went unnoticed until January 8, 2011. 5 years after dropping out, he checked into a Tucson motel at 12:29 a.m. On that fateful day, he made short trips to a convenience store, picked up developed photos of himself, including ones wearing female underwear, and a picture of a gun on a U.S. textbook. Returning to his room at 4:12 a.m., he logged onto his computer, delving into his familiar subversive online world. He posted bizarre images and spent the night sending goodbye emails to his online friends. 10 hours later, the nation would witness the horrifying killing spree that would shock Tucson and the world. In the months leading up to the tragic event, Jared Loughner distanced himself from friends and family in the real world, preferring the company of an online community. His MySpace records revealed an interest in revolutionary literature, including Mein Kampf. He frequented a site for conspiracy theorists and skeptics, hoping to find understanding for his bizarre views. Loughner's online posts became increasingly absurd, focusing on topics like currency, the U.S. Constitution, his belief that high schools were illegal, and advocating for gold and silver as the only true currency. Concerns grew among his online friends, some suggesting he seeks psychological help. During his time at Prima Community College, Loughner's behavior raised red flags. He laughed and made inappropriate jokes about sensitive topics like abortion and war. Confronted by teachers or peers, he maintained a smug attitude, dismissing everyone as idiots who didn't understand. Witnesses at the college noticed a disturbing change in Loughner's demeanor. One staff member expressed a strong gut feeling that he might bring a gun to class one day, foreseeing a potential tragedy. The tipping point for college authorities came when Loughner posted a disturbing video online, criticizing Pima Community College and expressing discontent with American education. In response, college authorities held a meeting with Loughner and his parents, warning of potential expulsion if things didn't change. He was suspended from classes until he sought psychiatric evaluation and returned with proof of mental well-being. Unfortunately, Loughner couldn't produce the required documentation, foreshadowing the dark path that would unfold on January 8, 2011.
How's it going? Thanks for the beat. I'm pissed off.
What's that?
We're looking at students who have been tortured. This is Pima Community College, one of the biggest scams in America. The students are so illiterate that it affects their daily lives. It is so illegal to sell this book under the Constitution. We are also censored by our freedom of speech. They're controlling the grammar. All the teachers that you have are being paid illegally and have a legal authority over the Constitution of the United States under the First Amendment. This is genocide in America.
At 7:04 a.m. on January 8, 2011, just 3 hours before his killing spree, Loughner left his motel room, attempting to buy ammunition for a recently purchased handgun. The sales clerk, alarmed by his erratic behavior, refused to sell him 9mm ammunition. Undeterred, Loughner succeeded in purchasing 400 rounds from another store at 7:31 a.m. With only hours remaining before his target, Congresswoman Giffords arrived. Loughner made his way home. As he approached his front door, a confrontation with his father ensued. Tensions had risen in recent months, leading his parents to take away his car keys in an attempt to discipline him. The strained relationship and Loughner's confused state were evident in their verbal argument. Unable to use his car, Loughner grabbed a black bag from the trunk and walked away. The standoff with his father continued in the front yard. In need of transportation, Loughner called a cab, setting the stage for a shocking killing spree that would devastate Tucson at around 10 a.m. on January 8, 2011. An hour before the tragedy unfolded, Tucson, Arizona, was enveloped in peace, a calm before the storm. Early January in southern Arizona is a cherished time, with temperatures around 70 degrees, making it perfect for outdoor activities. But this serene morning would soon be shattered. On this beautiful Saturday, residents were about to unknowingly connect with Senator Gabrielle Giffords. The Safeway was hosting a Congress on Your Corner event, a program initiated by Giffords. It was an opportunity for her to meet constituents, listen to their concerns, and understand the political issues on their minds. Calls were made to inform her supporters about the event, a seemingly low-key and relaxed gathering. However, unbeknownst to Gabrielle Giffords and her team, a very real and present threat lurked. Jared Lee Loughner harbored a burning hatred for the Congresswoman, stemming from an incident that had unfolded years ago. The unsuspecting constituents were on the verge of an unforeseen and tragic encounter with a disturbed individual with a dark agenda. Jared Loughner's encounter with Gabrielle Giffords began at a previous rally, similar to the scheduled one on January 8th. During a meet and greet, he posed a puzzling question to the Congresswoman. What is the government if words don't have a meaning? The question lacked context, leaving Giffords unsure of how to respond. A dismissive reaction from one of her associates further fueled Loughner's growing resentment. The seeds of hatred took root that day and continued to grow over the months and years that followed. Another point of contact intensified his animosity when he wrote a letter to Giffords' office, In response, her representatives mistakenly addressed the letter to Mr. Loughner instead of Loughner. This error further fueled his belief in his intellectual superiority, deepening his disdain for those in power. His lack of respect extended beyond politicians to include teachers and authority figures. However, the heinous act he was about to commit couldn't be solely explained by these beliefs. While many share criticism of politicians, this killing spree was not a political act. It emerged from a disturbing psychopathology, revealing a tragedy rooted in mental health rather than political dissent. On the fateful day, January 8, 2011, as the scheduled meet and greet unfolded at the Safeway, little did anyone know the dark intentions harbored by Jared Loughner. Having previously encountered Gabrielle Giffords, his distorted resentment simmered beneath the surface.
As Congresswoman Giffords engaged with constituents, Jared approached, ready to unleash his violent plan. The burning hatred that had festered over the years was about to erupt in a shocking act of violence that would scar Tucson and the nation. In moments, the calm morning turned into chaos as gunshots echoed through the air. The peaceful gathering became a scene of horror, with innocent lives caught in the crossfire of a disturbed mind. The tragedy that unfolded that day would leave an indelible mark on the history of Tucson, Arizona, and the nation as a whole. Despite the appearance of a well-organized event, an unsuspecting witness not particularly interested in politics noticed a man with a strange look on his face as she entered the grocery store nearby. Little did she know, this man was the killer who would soon shatter the tranquility of that day. At 10:10 a.m., Loughner's violent spree commenced. In the midst of Congresswoman Giffords addressing the crowd, he charged through, brandishing his weapon. Chaos ensued as gunshots rang out. Loughner aimed directly at Giffords, striking her in the head. Gabe Zimmerman, witnessing the tragedy up close, rushed to aid the Congresswoman, only to become another victim in the line of fire. The sudden eruption of gunfire startled those who weren't attending the meeting, marking the beginning of a devastating event that would claim multiple lives on that fateful day. Amidst the chaos, confusion, and panic, many bystanders were initially unsure of the unfolding tragedy. Some even admitted they didn't recognize the sound of gunshots, making it difficult to comprehend the gravity of the situation. Witnesses outside the immediate vicinity saw a rush of people entering a nearby store, screaming that the Congresswoman had been shot. Panic swept through the crowd. A woman who was close to Giffords during the incident described a figure moving among the people like a shadow. Jared Loughner, undeterred, redirected his gunfire, targeting the shocked attendees in the queue. One man dropped to the ground just as a bullet grazed the back of his head, miraculously avoiding serious injury. The frenzied attack continued as Loughner turned his gun towards the then District Director, Ron Barber. Judge John Roll, displaying immense bravery, leapt in between Loughner and Barber. Roll pushed Barber out of harm's way, sacrificing himself as a bullet claimed his life on the spot. Another bystander attempted to save Roll, performing CPR, but the judge's life could not be restored. In the ensuing seconds, a courageous bystander seized a chair and struck Loughner across the back. The impact caused Loughner to lose balance, enabling another man to grab his wrist and attempt to immobilize him. As the struggle unfolded, people screamed for someone to get the gun. Loughner, desperate, tried to reach for a fully loaded magazine to continue his deadly rampage. Amidst the struggle, another person wrestled the magazine and gun away from Loughner, rendering him unarmed. The man who disarmed him pointed the gun at Loughner, threatening him while the crowd subdued the criminal. With the situation somewhat under control, someone called the police. Loughner was swiftly taken into police custody, and news of his identity began to circulate. Emergency calls were made to inform authorities about the shooting involving Congresswoman Gabrielle Giffords. In the aftermath, questions arose about what could drive a lifelong Tucson resident to commit such a devastating act. The ruthless spree, lasting only 17 seconds, saw Loughner empty a 33-round magazine into an unsuspecting crowd. The brutal attack resulted in 6 deaths and 13 injuries. 5 minutes after the last bullet was fired, police arrived on the scene. Loughner was immediately handcuffed and removed from the devastating aftermath of his killing spree. His first words to law enforcement were a declaration that no one else was involved, emphasizing that this was his act alone. Whether seeking notoriety or driven by other motives, Loughner's actions had left a community in shock and mourning. In the aftermath of the devastating shooting, the community rallied together to help the victims. Among the casualties, a heart-wrenching discovery was made: a lifeless 9-year-old child lying on the ground. Witnesses were haunted by the memory of witnessing CPR attempts on the small child, ultimately unable to save her. Tragically, she passed away on the way to the hospital. In the midst of the chaos, Congresswoman Giffords was found critically wounded, with a serious gunshot wound to her head. Miraculously, Giffords survived the gunshot. The bullet had struck just above her left eye, and while the exact trajectory remained unknown, doctors confirmed that it didn't cross from one hemisphere of the brain to the other. In the days and weeks following the shooting, Giffords displayed remarkable progress. She immediately responded to commands, advanced to scrolling through her iPad, and even ventured outdoors. At the Institute for Rehabilitation and Research in Houston, Giffords underwent daily sessions with a team of specialists, including speech, occupational and physical therapists, along with a neuropsychologist who worked on rehabilitating her cognitive functions. Within 2 months, Giffords was mouthing the words to "Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star" and "Happy Birthday," engaging in phone conversations, walking up and down halls using a shopping cart, and gradually regaining her balance and strength through squats. Her remarkable recovery journey became a testament to resilience and determination in the face of adversity. In early June, over 5 months after the shooting, the first photos of Gabrielle Giffords were released, taken on May 17th. The images featured Giffords with her mother, showcasing the same bright smile she had before the tragic incident. Just 7 months after the shooting, Giffords made a triumphant return to the House of Representatives to cast a vote on the debt ceiling deal. Her yes vote was met with a standing ovation, and her return was celebrated by all. However, she eventually resigned from office in 2012 to focus on her recovery and became a prominent advocate for gun control. The trial for Jared Lee Loughner began on March 9, 2011 at the Arizona Superior Court, where he faced initial charges on 49 counts, potentially leading to the death penalty if found guilty. However, during his first court hearing in May 2011, Loughner exhibited erratic and violent behavior, appearing disconnected and confused. This prompted his removal from the court, and he was deemed unfit to stand trial, remaining in custody. As time passed, his mental health deteriorated further, with episodes of psychosis and hallucinations. By June 26, 2011, Loughner was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia, leading the trial judge to rule that he should be forcibly medicated with antipsychotics. Struggling with open sores on his feet, Loughner's mental state seemed to worsen. It's plausible that, due to his mental illness, he genuinely believed he was targeting evil individuals during the shooting. The complexities of his mental health became central to the legal proceedings surrounding the tragic event. After 14 months on medication, Jared Lee Loughner was deemed competent to stand trial. Facing the possibility of the death penalty, his defense convinced him to plead guilty to 19 of the original 49 charges, including attempted assassination of a congresswoman, the murder of 2 federal employees, causing the death of 4 others, attempted murder of 2 federal employees, and injuring 10 others with a pistol. In a plea deal, Loughner received 7 consecutive life terms plus 140 years in prison. This effectively meant he would never be released from prison under current law. The case reignited debates on mental health and gun control laws in America, prompting a renewed focus on these issues. Jared Lee Loughner's story is one of a once talented musician and rebellious teen who, overnight, transformed into a cold-blooded killer. The case remains a chilling reminder of the complex intersection of mental health and violence. If you have thoughts on this case, feel free to share them in the comments below. If you found this story compelling, don't forget to like the video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell to stay updated on new shocking cases. Until next time, stay safe. Until next.